Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming on a landmark 3-day visit to the United States of America, and I'm joined today by Ambassador P. Harish, who's permanent representative of India to the United Nations. So the Prime Minister's visit, especially to the UNGA, what are the top focus and priorities of India at during this particular visit?
I think the Prime Minister would be speaking at the Summit of the Future. The Summit of the Future is focused, as the Secretary General said, to reform a system which was created by our grandfathers, which is not fit for purpose to leave it to our grandchildren. What is it that the international community can look at to leave a future for our children and grandchildren and make today's world a place that they would want to be in? I think the focus is on the youth. And India has one of the largest component of the world's youth. For a country of 1.4 billion, a majority of our citizens are young people. Honorable Prime Minister has always spoken of the energy and the innovation of the youth of India. So the message of the Prime Minister will be the message of India's youth for the future. And this is the Summit of the Future.
The Prime Minister on many occasions has made this case that India should get a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. The world order must change in the favor of India. We are a big nation. We are a powerful nation. What would you say on that aspect during this visit?
I think India, with its role, with its size, is an essential nation of the international system. We should be represented in the Security Council in the permanent category. India and our friends, we are pushing for a reformed multilateralism, a revitalized UN system. We seek expansion in both the permanent and the non-permanent categories in the Security Council. We demand text-based negotiations in a time-bound manner. It will come. There are many detractors. There are people who prefer the status quo, but it will change. Otherwise, the UN itself will lose credibility.
That's a very important statement, Ambassador. Also, the PM addressing the Summit of the Future, you touched upon it earlier. What is India's message to the world leaders at this summit? We are charting a future course for the UN. What do you think the future should look like? What is India's message?
What we look for is a future that is best encapsulated in our age-old civilizational dictum, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. It is with this approach that India engages with the world. What we develop, what we harness is not for us alone. It is for the whole world. We have seen this with Vaccine Maitri. We have seen this with our digital platforms. We don't patent them. We put them in open source on the internet for other countries to use and harness and to adapt according to their requirements. When we extend a helping hand to our friends and partners, we don't prescribe. We follow their objectives and their own goals and accordingly seek to help and assist them. I think countries of the Global South realize this and look at us as an important development partner. I think this is a very key aspect of how we engage with the world.
How does India would see the pact of the future? So we are talking about sustainable development goals. We're talking about the important issue of climate change, where India in a way has been a pioneer in achieving its goals much ahead of time.
I think if you look at the issues on the table, you are looking at sustainable development goals and how the world has slipped in achieving Agenda 2030 because of the pandemic and the crisis of the last 2 years, which have led to food, fertilizer and fuel inflation. We have also seen how financing for development has emerged as a big issue and the need for reform in the international financial architecture too, so that multilateral development banks can focus on financing for development and also on making available resources for the green energy transition to countries of the Global South. We see new technologies emerging, such as artificial intelligence, and how they should be best harnessed in a manner that is inclusive and everybody has an equal stake and everybody has an affordable access to these technologies. So a number of these issues will come up for discussion. These are on the table. How do you harness innovation? How do you harness technologies? And how can they be done in an inclusive process so that no one is left behind and no one is left out.
My last question, Ambassador. The Pact of the Future, in fact, contains language about the reform of the UN Security Council that, in a way, balances and in a way backs what India has been saying for very long.
The documents are negotiated between countries. You have various viewpoints that have to be harmonized. Yet, one thing is clear, there is a need for expansion in both the permanent and the non-permanent category, and that is clearly reflected in the outcome documents.
Thank you so much, sir.